Picture this. You're out for dinner. It's a nice place. You've had a really long week, and you're just, settling into that perfect, quiet ambiance.
Oh, yeah. The best feeling.
Right. You've got the murmur of conversation, the soft clinking of silverware, maybe the smell of roasted garlic in the air.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Same. But then suddenly, from like 2 tables over, you hear it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the unmistakable sharp crash of a shattered teacup hitting the hardwood floor.
Oh, man. The worst.
Immediately, the entire dining room goes dead silent. You look over, and there is a parent, face just completely flushed, frantically apologizing to the waiter.
Yeah, trying to wrangle a squirming toddler while, picking up jagged pieces of porcelain.
Exactly. It is an incredibly awkward, tense moment. And frankly, it's one we have all witnessed at some point in our lives while navigating shared public spaces.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there, either as the diner or, the stressed out parent.
Right. But I want you to imagine a totally different ending to that scenario. What if, instead of just offering a polite nod and returning with a broom, the restaurant management walked over and handed that parent an itemized bill for the damage right then and there?
Wow. It completely disrupts our standard expectation of how hospitality works, right?
Completely.
Because we're basically conditioned to believe that restaurants absorb the cost of broken glassware or, spilled drinks. It's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah, you assume it's built into the prices.
Exactly. The premium we pay for a meal isn't just for the ingredients. It's like a premium paid for grace.
Oh, I like that phrase. A premium paid for grace.
Yeah. So to actually hand a parent an invoice for a broken cup, it shatters that illusion. It feels like a massive breach of this unspoken social contract we've all operated under for decades.
Which brings us to the fascinating subject of today's deep dive. We are looking at a California-based restaurant called Chez Xue, and they recently went completely viral online for instituting this strict, highly publicized new policy. It basically holds parents financially responsible for the messes and the physical damage caused by their kids.
It definitely sparked a huge conversation.
It really did. So we've pulled together a fascinating stack of sources to figure out what is really going on here. We have the explicit breakdown of the restaurant's written rules, plus the actual itemized bills they've published online.
Which are wild to see, by the way.
Truly wild. We've also got the fiercely divided social media reactions and insights from both etiquette professionals and developmental parenting experts.
A lot of different angles on this one.
Right. So our mission today is to look at all of this and figure out what this policy actually represents. Is handing a parent a bill for a broken cup a draconian overreaction by a stressed business owner?
Or is it a necessary boundary?
Exactly. Or, perhaps most importantly, is this policy a mirror reflecting a fundamental shift in how we are raising children in shared public spaces?
To unpack the sociological implications of that, we really have to look at the physical mechanics of what Chez Xue is doing.
Yeah, the actual rules.
Right, because they aren't just making a vague, passive-aggressive threat here. They have codified this into a rigid system that greets you the literal moment you sit down.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, you cannot debate the philosophy of the policy until you see exactly what they wrote.
True.
They posted these rules right on their menu, and they do not mince words. They state clearly, Chez Xue is a family-friendly restaurant. However, we are not a playground.
Oof. Setting the tone right away.
Yeah, and then they lay out the explicit rules in bold capital letters. Children must, quote, remain seated at all times.
All caps.
All caps. They add that running around, shouting, making noise with utensils, and so on will not be tolerated. Again, all caps, exclamation point.
It's super aggressive formatting for a dinner menu, It's designed to jolt the consumer out of their default relaxed state.
Definitely. It feels like getting yelled at by a menu.
Right. And they follow up that language with a very specific consequence. Guests who don't abide by these rules might be asked to leave. And, more importantly, parents will be held financially liable for any damage their children cause to the property.
But the thing that propelled this from just a local dispute into a massive viral phenomenon was their tactic of radical transparency.
Oh, the receipts?
Yes. They published the real, itemized damages from past incidents to prove to future patrons that the threat is real.
Yeah, and when I first read about this, I assumed they were charging for, massive, undeniable property destruction. Like a kid smashing a window or something.
Same. But then I looked at the actual itemized bills they posted, and it completely changed my perspective on what they're trying to achieve here. Let's look at the timeline they provided.
Okay.
In April 2025, a customer's child picked up and dropped a credit card machine onto the ground, shattering the screen.
A whole credit card machine.
Yeah, and the restaurant charged the parent exactly $327.03. Right. Then, fast forward to December 2025, a child carved 2 designs into a tabletop using a dining utensil. The parents were billed $109.38.
Okay, so they're invoicing for furniture repair.
Exactly. But then we have January 2026. This one got me. A child was playing on the booth seats, bumped a teacup onto the floor, and broke it.
Just a standard teacup.
Just a teacup. The restaurant charged the parent $5.47. I mean, itemizing a single teacup down to the penny feels so incredibly intentional.
Oh, it is intentional. It exposes the whole psychological mechanism of the hospitality industry.
How so?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, when you go to a restaurant, you are engaging in the commodification of grace. You are paying a 300% markup on a plate of pasta, specifically so you do not have to deal with the friction of daily life.
Right, you don't want to cook or do the dishes.
Exactly. You don't have to clean. And if you drop a fork, someone magically appears to replace it without making you feel guilty.
It's part of the service.
Right. But by itemizing a $5 teacup, the restaurant is explicitly communicating that they are no longer subsidizing your life's friction.
Ah, I see.
They are stripping away the illusion of the pampered guest and replacing it with a transactional reality.
Yeah.
Like, you break my property, you buy it.
It's honestly like signing a damage deposit agreement for a rental car or like an Airbnb, but applying it to just a casual Tuesday night dinner.
That's a great comparison. It's exactly like that.
I struggle with this, though, because on one hand, Chez Xue explicitly calls themselves family-friendly in their own post.
Yeah, they do.
So doesn't that label inherently mean you are signing up for a little chaos? If you want an environment with absolute silence and zero risk to your porcelain, don't you just ban kids entirely?
Well, that's the big debate.
Right. Like, is a family restaurant fundamentally a controlled environment, like an art gallery where you can't touch anything? Or is it a shared communal space where we just have to accept that human beings, especially tiny ones, are going to be clumsy and loud?
The tension really comes from how we define family-friendly in modern society. Does it mean we have high chairs and a kids menu? Or does it mean we forfeit our right to an orderly dining room the moment a toddler walks in?
Right. It's a blurry line.
It is. And to understand how professionals view this boundary, we have to look at the etiquette experts.
Okay.
Elaine Swan is a lifestyle and etiquette expert who reviewed these sources, and she weighed in on these specific incidents. Her perspective offers pretty much zero wiggle room.
Really? Who does she blame?
She squarely places the blame on the parents, completely absolving the restaurant of any fault.
Well, I mean, that makes sense when you look at the specific items damaged.
Precisely her point. Swan noted that in the case of the credit card machine, that device is a tool for the employees and a mechanism for payment for the parents.
Not a toy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is not a shiny toy to keep a baby occupied. It simply never should have been within the child's reach to begin with.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with.
And the tabletop carving is an even starker example of her premise. Carving not one, but 2 distinct designs into a piece of solid wood takes time.
It's not a quick accident.
Right. It requires sustained effort. For a child to accomplish that in a busy dining room indicates a severe lapse in parental supervision. Swan argues that the restaurant is merely reacting to a vacuum of parental authority.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Swan doesn't just stop at analyzing those isolated incidents of property damage.
She takes it a step further.
Yeah, she makes a much deeper observation about what this menu represents for society at large. She argues that this isn't just about one frustrated restaurant owner in California.
It's bigger than that.
Right. She says this is a response to a broader, fundamental shift in modern parenting and how we exist in shared public spaces.
Yeah, she points to a definitive change in the collective mindset. Swan notes that the perspective on respect, boundaries, and entitlement has completely changed from generations past. Well, when the foundational mindset of parents changes, the way they raise their children in public changes with it. If we look at the sociological drivers behind this, we can see the erosion of what sociologists call third spaces.
Like parks and community centers.
Exactly. Places where families could exist without a financial transaction attached. As those spaces dwindle, parents are increasingly bringing children into adult-oriented transactional spaces like restaurants simply because they need to get out of the house.
That makes total sense. People are just desperate for a change of scenery.
Right. Furthermore, dining out has become incredibly expensive. When a family spends $100 on a basic Tuesday night meal, the parents often feel a sense of ownership over that space for the hour.
Like they've rented the table.
Yeah. They feel they've purchased a reprieve from the exhaustion of parenting, which leads to a relaxed attitude toward supervision. So the restaurant's policy is a direct confrontation of that modern consumer entitlement.
But I have to challenge this nostalgia narrative a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Are parents today truly more entitled? Or are we simply living in an era where every single public infraction is documented, itemized, and amplified online?
That's a fair point.
Right. I mean, kids threw tantrums in the 1980s. Kids broke plates in the 1950s. We just didn't have viral Reddit threads dissecting a $5.47 teacup back then.
Or point-of-sale systems that could instantly invoice you for it.
Exactly. So are we judging modern parents too harshly just because the technology exists to publicly track every mistake they make?
Visibility certainly amplifies the perceived problem, yeah. And the internet loves to turn isolated incidents into generational indictments.
It really does.
But Swan's conclusion is entirely pragmatic, regardless of whether historical behavior was better or worse.
What's her takeaway?
She argues that as a business owner, you cannot control the sociological shifts in parenting. You cannot change how people discipline their kids in their own living rooms.
Right.
But you possess absolute authority over your own commercial environment. You can draw a rigid line at your front door and force the public to adapt to your standards rather than adapting your business to the lowest common denominator of public behavior.
Okay, but there's a fatal flaw in Swan's argument for strict boundaries.
Which is?
A boundary only works if everyone agrees on where the line is drawn. Like, I will set strict standards for my business sounds great in a boardroom. But in practice, human behavior is incredibly messy.
Oh, for sure.
If a 2-year-old drops a crayon under the table, can't reach it, and proceeds to cry, is that disruptive or is that just a human being existing?
That's the gray area.
Exactly. This subjectivity introduces a massive gray area. Setting a rule is easy. Enforcing it fairly across diverse situations is where the policy starts to fracture.
And this brings us to the perspective of parenting expert Kara Kushner, who highlights exactly that fracture.
What does she think about the rules?
Well, Kushner agrees with the basic premise that letting kids be kids should never mean letting them cause physical harm or completely derail a dining room.
Right. Nobody wants a table carved up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she raises a massive red flag about the mechanics of Chez Xue's rules. The wording on that menu leaves a tremendous amount of room for interpretation.
Yeah, words like disruptive and destructive are highly subjective. Not to mention will not be tolerated. It sounds like a legal statute, but it's being applied to toddlers.
This raises an important question. Who defines those words in the heat of the moment?
Right. Is it the waiter? The manager?
Exactly. Kushner is deeply concerned about the chilling effect this has on well-meaning families. You have parents who are actively trying to include their children in everyday experiences, specifically to teach them how to behave in society.
They're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. But if those parents feel like they are walking on eggshells, fearing a financial penalty or public humiliation for a developmentally normal toddler moment, they might just stop going out altogether.
It transforms a communal meal into a high-stakes performance.
Perfectly said.
Let's talk about the practical, physical enforcement of this rule, because that's where the rubber meets the road. A restaurant isn't the police.
No, they're not.
You can't legally detain a family over a $5.47 charge if they refuse to pay it. So the enforcement is entirely social. It relies on the awkwardness of public shaming within the dining room.
Which is super uncomfortable for everyone.
Picture a 22-year-old hostess trying to extract a $5 damage fee from a defensive, embarrassed father whose kid just knocked over a glass.
Yeah.
How does management fairly police the line between normal child development and deliberate destruction?
It requires a level of nuance that a bold font menu warning simply doesn't possess. We are talking about the difference between the legal definition of negligence and the social reality of accidents.
Yeah, big difference.
A child dropping a teacup because they literally lack the fine motor skills to grip porcelain is vastly different from a child carving a table because they are bored and unsupervised.
One is biological, one is behavioral.
Exactly. One is a biological reality, the other is behavioral negligence. But the restaurant's policy flattens intent. It treats the outcome, the damaged property, the exact same way, penalizing the biological accident and the behavioral negligence equally.
And the social media reactions we polled perfectly capture the friction this causes.
Oh, Reddit had a field day with this.
They really did. On one side, you have Reddit users praising the policy to the high heavens. One called it the most rational thing I've seen in a while.
Yeah, the free market argument.
Right. They argue the free market dictates that if you don't like the rules, you can just eat somewhere else. But another user pointed out what feels like a glaring double standard.
Oh, what was that?
They asked, why is this policy exclusively singling out kids? Adults can act terribly in restaurants, too.
Oh, that's very true.
We've all seen adults get intoxicated, talk loudly, yell at servers, and break wine glasses. So why does the menu specifically target the behavior of children?
It's a powerful counter-argument that reveals the underlying bias of the policy. If the owner's goal was purely about protecting the physical dining environment, a blanket policy stating all guests will be charged for damages would suffice.
Just a standard damage policy.
Right. By explicitly singling out children in the text, the restaurant is making a targeted cultural statement about modern parenting.
They're sending a message.
They are. They are signaling to a specific demographic of diners, those without children or those with older children, that this space prioritizes adult comfort over familial accommodation.
We can debate the philosophy, the subjectivity, and the fairness of it all day long. But ultimately, the restaurant owner, you, didn't write this to start a sociological debate.
No, he had a business to run.
Exactly. He had a very specific, practical goal. He wanted to stop the physical damage to his property and the disruption of his business. So we have to look at the empirical results.
The real-world data.
Yeah. Did this controversial, highly subjective policy actually work?
To answer that, we look at Xue's defense of his own policy, which he shared in an interview with People magazine.
What did he say?
He stated very clearly that his motivation isn't just about punishing bad parents or acting as a moral authority. It's about his fiduciary responsibility to everyone else in the room.
The other diners.
Right. He argued that it is vital to create a welcoming environment for the other guests. If one family is letting their child run wild, it effectively ruins the product that the 5 other tables purchased.
That makes sense.
Accountability, however blunt, is his primary tool for maintaining the integrity of the experience he is selling.
And here is the dramatic plot twist in the source material.
Oh, this is the best part.
You might expect that a policy this aggressive, this fraught with subjectivity, would just lead to endless screaming matches with management, terrible Yelp reviews, and a massive drop in business.
That's what I would have guessed.
Right. But Xue reports that since the note went up on the menus, there has been a, quote, very sharp, precipitous fall in disruptive behavior. In fact, he noted that they haven't had a major incident or had to charge anyone for damage in over 6 months.
It is a stunning success rate from a purely operational standpoint. He solves his business problem.
He really did.
But what's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism behind why it worked. It wasn't merely that the threat of a $5 fine scared parents into leaving their kids at home with a babysitter.
What was it then?
Xue noted a completely unexpected side effect of the policy. He frequently overhears parents at the table physically pointing to the restaurant's written note to set expectations for their own children.
So what does this all mean? It means the restaurant accidentally created a massive parenting hack.
Totally.
By putting the rules so bluntly on the menu, the restaurant essentially outsourced the role of the bad cop. Think about structural psychology for a second. It's like how retaining walls work in landscaping.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Usually, a parent is trying to hold back the dirt of their child's impulses with their bare hands. They have to rely on personal authority, behave because I said so, which is exhausting and invites a power struggle.
Kids love to push back on
Oh,
them.
exactly. But the menu acts as a concrete retaining wall. The parent and child can both look at the wall and agree it's an immovable object. The parent doesn't have to be the bad guy.
They just point to the menu.
Yeah, they just say, look, we have to sit still and be quiet because the restaurant rules say we have to, and we don't want to get in trouble with the owner.
It brilliantly removes the interpersonal friction between the parent and the child. It unites them against the external, objective authority of the restaurant's policy.
It's so smart.
The rulebook provides a concrete boundary in an environment where children naturally want to test their limits. And it forces us to reconsider Swan's earlier point about the entitlement of modern parents.
How so?
Perhaps the core issue isn't that parents are increasingly entitled or lazy. Perhaps they are just deeply, profoundly exhausted by the modern landscape.
Oh, that is so true.
Having a rigid external structure provided by the restaurant actually offers a bizarre kind of psychological relief. The boundary is set by a third party. There is no gray area left to negotiate before the appetizers arrive.
It is a brilliant irony. A policy that was fundamentally designed to threaten parents, to hold their feet to the financial fire, has somehow organically evolved into a tangible tool that helps them manage their kids' behavior.
Wild.
It gave parents the exact leverage they apparently needed but didn't feel empowered to establish themselves. Which brings us right back to you, listening to this deep dive right now.
Yeah, bringing it back to the real world.
I want you to reflect on your own experiences navigating these shared public spaces. Whether you are a parent who has sweat through a dinner trying to keep a toddler perfectly quiet so you don't disturb the next table, or you're a diner who has had your rare, expensive anniversary meal derailed by a flying French fry.
We've all been on one side of that equation.
We really have. This exploration shows us just how incredibly fragile our shared environments really are. It takes so little to break the spell of a nice evening out.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reinforces that true understanding of our social fabric requires holding multiple perspectives at once.
Very true.
We can empathize deeply with the stressed parent who feels targeted, unwelcome, and judged for simply trying to integrate their child into society.
Yeah, that's a heavy burden.
But while simultaneously understanding the very real plight of the independent business owner who is simply trying to protect their livelihood and provide a consistent product for the majority of their patrons, the friction occurs because both realities are entirely valid, yet fundamentally at odds in a confined space.
And it leaves me with this final, lingering thought to mull over. If a simple, albeit harsh, written note resulted in a precipitous drop in bad behavior, are we moving toward a society where the unwritten social contract is completely dead?
That's a scary thought.
It is. For generations, we relied on shared, unspoken norms of respect to govern how we act in public. If those unspoken norms are no longer enough to maintain order, will the future of our shared public spaces require literal, itemized price tags for every single social infraction just to force us to respect one another?
Wow.
Yeah. The next time you hear a teacup shatter in a quiet room, you might just find yourself wondering who exactly is going to foot the bill.